This segment sponsored by Foster Financial. It's time for Wealth Wednesday, where Foster Financial's Vice President, Caleb Doan, joins me to give you a wealth of financial knowledge. Welcome, Caleb.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going great, thanks.
Good. Okay, so today we're going to talk about risks, right?
That's exactly
and what people can do to reduce them. So share a little bit with me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've talked about this a little bit in a couple previous segments, but I think this is something that it's really important to take a look at, especially whenever there are big life changes in somebody's life. So, you know, one of the things that we take a look at in determining how risky or how conservative somebody's portfolio should be is how close they are to retirement.
Okay.
Because typically when you hit retirement age, that's usually when people start, withdrawing money from their nest egg that they've built up over the course of their career, and that's when that needs to start generating them income. And so, that anytime you have those big life changes are a good time to take a look at the risk in your portfolio. And so a lot of times that'll be something that people chat with us about. So usually people come in, when they're close to retirement and they say, hey, am I too risky? Am I too conservative? Where should I actually be?
Right. And is this a really popular question right now? Like, what time of year do people really start to reevaluate their finances? In what quarter?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, a lot of people do kind of retire towards the end of the year, just sort of end it on a high note after Christmas break or whatever it might be. So this is certainly the time that people start taking a look at that. And I think over the past, maybe 5 or 6 years, the market was doing really, really good for the 4 or 5 years leading up to 2022. And so I think there's a lot of people that maybe retired in that time period and didn't shave off very much risk from their portfolio because they thought, hey, it's been doing really well for the past couple years. And then, of course, 2022 happened, the markets dropped, and they realized, whoa, maybe I need to take some risk off. And so we've had some, new clients come to us asking how they would do this. And there's a couple key pieces that we look at. So one of the ways to maybe reduce risk in somebody's portfolio is actually to add a little bit more exposure to fixed income. So this is things like bonds and CDs, because they just have a stated interest rate on them that they pay, monthly or semi-annually or whatever it might be. And so sometimes they're not as exposed to the fluctuations in the stock market.
Okay. And when we talk about the timing of it, I know that you said when people are close to retirement, but is there another stage of someone's life that they should start to consider their risks and kind of reevaluate?
Yeah, it's a good question. The other thing that people really look at is their age too. So I mean, just as they get older, typically you're starting to shave a little bit of risk off your portfolio in general, but there's a whole host of factors that we consider. Sometimes even when somebody is maybe starting a pension or something like that, that's a good time to take a look. Or when people have kids, or any time that there's expected withdrawals, even if you're not close to retirement.
Okay, so big life events that kind of happen helps. And so when people are reducing their risks, I know that you said that there's so many different factors. Can you kind of give us an example of just maybe like at what point someone's going through something specific and they would choose conservative or more risky? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think generally if somebody is retiring within the next 2 years, let's say, we'll take a look at that and say, okay, if we're going to need to withdraw some money from the investment accounts, maybe Social Security or their pension doesn't quite cover what they need, we'll say, okay, to prepare for that, we're going to start reducing risk, sell some equities, buy some more bonds in your portfolio to prep you for that. So that's an area where we'd get a little bit more conservative. Maybe a time where we'd get a little bit more aggressive is maybe somebody is delaying Social Security until 70 years old. And so for the time period before that, they need to be a little bit more conservative. All of a sudden, Social Security kicks on, and they no longer need to take any withdrawals from their retirement accounts. So maybe at that point, we go slightly more aggressive. So those are a couple situations that we would do that. And a couple of the other ways we make the portfolios somewhat more conservative is, of course, we talked about the fixed income side, the bonds and the CDs. The other piece that we sometimes use is called buffered funds.
Oh, okay. What is that?
So, the buffered funds are still on the equity side of somebody's portfolio. but they offer some downside preservation or downside buffer on the market. So a lot of times they have like a 10% downside buffer. So if the S&P goes down 10%, these don't go down anything. If the S&P goes down 15%, these will go down 5%.
Yeah.
So it offers some downside protection, and then on the upside, it has an upside cap. And so maybe it's at 18%. So if the S&P goes up 18, you go up 18. If the S&P goes up 20, you're capped at 18.
Okay.
And so we take a look at that and say, hey, are we willing to forego returns above 18% in order to get that downside protection? And if it makes sense for the client, then we help them out with that.
All right. Wow. So many things to consider. Thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, you bet.
And this really shows why people really need a financial advisor. So much to think about. So thank you, Caleb.
Yeah.
And Foster Financial can help you identify your proper risks. So it's so important to give them a call and take advantage of their complimentary consultation. We'll have their phone number listed below, and we'll be right back.
This segment sponsored by Foster Financial.